All right, guys. Well, this is a special treat. Our next guest is one of New York's favorite people. He is also a former UFC middleweight champion, a multiple-time Division One NCAA wrestler. He has most recently added actor to his resume when he starred alongside Kevin James in Barcelona, and he's now facing Gegard Mousasi at UFC 210 on April 8th. We wanted this man on for a long time, and now today, here he is, Chris Weidman. Welcome to your first appearance on Submission Radio. How's it going today?
It's going good, man. Thanks for having me, guys.
It's absolutely our pleasure. Now, before we talk fighting, Chris, we see you've recently joined Twitch, and you've got your own channel, you're streaming, and you've actually been playing a bit of Counter-Strike. Now, we had no idea that you were such a big gamer. We saw on your computer you had games like Rainbow Six and StarCraft. New things we learned about you. How long have you been gaming for? What made you want to start a Twitch channel?
I've been gaming since as long as I can remember, but and then I got into like kind of PC gaming, and I was doing the consoles and stuff for a long time, like through college and stuff. But since I started having kids, it started dwindling down. And I moved a few times. I didn't set up my computer, which I built like 5 years ago, and it was top of the line 5 years ago. But now it kind of is not as good as what's out there at all. And so. But anyway, so I was playing some Counter-Strike Source at night during this camp, just kind of to chill out. And I was in jiu-jitsu, and one of the guys in jiu-jitsu, he makes money streaming, and he was talking to me about it. I'm like, man, you make money doing that? I was like, maybe I'll just start streaming when I play video games, because I'm playing anyway. I might as well just start streaming it, and that's what I started doing.
Perfect. Match made in heaven. Now, there's been a lot of stories. I mean, Counter-Strike's one of those games where people don't really just play it casually. You're either, obsessed and completely invested in, or you're not. I mean, Mark Hunt was a guy who famously played a lot of Counter-Strike. Are you one of those guys as well, where you sort of stayed up, to ridiculous hours of the night just gaming away?
Oh, yeah, I've done it all. I mean, I think I became a little bit more mature with it. Like, I'm a little bit more structured with my time. But, oh, man, yeah, through the years, man, I was out of my mind with gaming. Not just Counter-Strike, which I've definitely spent lots of time on. But I mean, I was even geeking out. I was doing World of Warcraft. I was power leveling characters. I was out of my mind for a while. So yeah, definitely.
I think the thing that brings you down for me is when I game and I'm playing Rainbow Six, and everyone online are kids who are on the voice chat, just chatting away, and a part of me is just a little bit ashamed to speak up and just turn my headset off and maybe just go away on the side. But I guess, look, now that you're making money from it, it's a good excuse for the wife not to complain about you gaming too much. But let's talk about fighting. A couple of weeks ago marked the 6-year anniversary of your UFC debut. It's remarkable. It was March 3rd, 2011. It's when you defeated Alessio Sakara at UFC Live, Sanchez versus Campman. Did you stop and take a second to remember you had thus far?
Well, it's funny because I don't think I knew about that. So now that you mentioned it, wow, that's crazy. So I'm in the UFC 6 years?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. So now I'm reminiscing. Wow, that's crazy. I still feel like I'm a newbie over in the UFC. I guess not. I guess I'm starting to be a veteran. Yeah, it's been an interesting ride, man. It's been a crazy ride.
All right, well, let's talk about some of the most recent moments. I mean, we got to talk about UFC 205. Being a New Yorker and campaigning for so long to get MMA into that state, that fight, it was like a special moment for you, almost like a homecoming. Unfortunately, it obviously didn't go your way, didn't come to plan, but how did you sort of get over that loss mentally, and how were you able to put it behind you and move forward to, I guess, where you are now?
I mean, just the way anybody, anytime that you deal with any loss of any kind, I mean, you just gotta. There's only one way to deal with it. You got to be positive and move on and just keep working. So I learned from it, and I just got back to the gym and kept working. And I don't make the loss, who I am. I don't let it change me. It's just losing's part of the game, and you got to enjoy all parts of this game, and that is part of it. So I just take it in stride and keep on working, man.
How important was it for you to take another fight in New York? Obviously, UFC 210 is in Buffalo, New York. Some people are looking at it as possibly your way to kind of redeem yourself and get that W in that home state of yours, get a bit of closure. Was that any part of it when you took that fight at UFC 210, or were you sort of beyond that at that point?
Oh, yeah, no, definitely not. I'm not thinking about. I didn't think about that at once. It's just, I mean, that was what was offered to fight in Buffalo, which is cool. You know, it's New York, even though it's like 7 hours away from where I'm at. It's still New York, and it's awesome to be able to fight in front of the New York fans who've been missing out on watching MMA for years. You know, it's the one state you haven't been able to watch it. So anytime to be able to entertain those people, it's a good time.
Yeah, for sure. The people who haven't been getting their Chris Weidman fix now, you're sort of making up for lost time. I'm just wondering, because after the Romero fight, a lot of people thought that you deserved, a bit of a confidence-building fight as a way to sort of reset and get your feet back under you. Instead, you got a really tough guy in Gegard Mousasi. Did you ask for such a stiff test in Mousasi, and how do you feel about getting such a challenging matchup, or was it just purely what the UFC offered you?
I mean, it's what I want. I want the best guys. I want the guys that. I mean, when have I ever fought a guy who isn't the top guy? So,
yeah.
It's just, and Mousasi, I think, would be almost a step down from the level of guys I've been fighting. So it's not, and he's on a nice win streak. He's developed a name for himself. He's experienced. He's been around. But I feel like every time he's stepped up and fought a top-notch guy, I think he came up short. So I think it's a great fight. People are behind him. People think he's good, and so if I go out there and dominate him, I think it brings me closer to getting back to that title contention.
It's interesting that you mention that, because a lot of people sort of wondering about Mousasi and sort of where he ranks in terms of your recent opponents, because like you mentioned, over the last few years, you really faced a murderer's row of greats. Where does he sort of rank for you in terms of the guys that you've recently fought?
I mean, I think. I don't know. I think, like, you watch him fight when he fought Lyoto Machida. I think he was on a win streak, and Mousasi it might have been right after I beat Mousasi. I don't remember exactly. But, I mean, he did everything he could to win that fight. He couldn't track down Mousasi. He couldn't get the win. I don't think he's beat a top guy before. And honestly, I haven't been really watching too much. I watched him more like live. I haven't like scouted him or anything like that. My coaches are, obviously, but I don't really watch too much video on him. So I don't really know his history. So guys, I don't even know what I'm saying right now.
This is hilarious. You're gonna be in there at UFC 210 and not watch a single video of his, but that's all right. You've obviously got great coaches in Ray Longo and all the team down there. The thing that's different about this one is you're going to this fight on a 2-fight losing streak, and that's the first for you in what's been a really successful career for you thus far. Has this sort of changed your mindset or preparation heading into this fight?
No, not really. I mean, every fight always feels like it's the biggest fight of your life, and this is definitely no different. This is I got to win this fight. I got to go out there and not just win it, but I got to go out there and dominate it. And that's the pressure I put on myself, and I feel like I kind of do that for all my fights. But my mentality is strong. I feel very confident I could go out there and break him, put him in panic mode, and I just feel like I'm the better athlete and a more technical athlete in every aspect of the game. So.
Yeah, so it's going to be an exciting matchup, and fans can't wait to see what happens. I mean, you mentioned the athletic advantage that you're going to have over Mousasi and how you're more dominant than him in a lot of areas of the game. Just going into that a little bit more, how do you sort of see this fight playing out? And what do you feel is your biggest advantage apart from the wrestling in this one?
I think my pressure, my size, strength. I think, my range, I got long, pretty long. And the way I'm able to mix it up from the striking to the wrestling. I mean, I think he got outstruck by Lyoto Machida, and I outstruck Lyoto Machida. So if we really want to, go down the striking game, I'm confident with that too. So anywhere this fight is, I'm going to feel comfortable. And the fact is that, I could dictate this fight. I could get this fight to the ground, and he's going to be losing down there. And he's I think his biggest weakness is also his biggest strength. He's very relaxed, which is, a great trait. But sometimes him being relaxed, before you know it, the fight's over and he didn't get the job done. So I'm going to make him panic. He's got to realize that he has 3 rounds to win. To the judges, you can't just sit back, get taken down, and think it's okay. You're going to lose. And especially with me on top of him, he's not going to be able to relax like maybe he's relaxed with other people when he gets taken down. He's going to have to really worry about the ground and pound and the submissions. So
And as you mentioned, obviously he's coming in on a really good streak. A win over Mousasi in a time when the top end of the middleweight division, it's pretty crowded. What do you think that does for you? You've always been a guy who, even since that Luke Rockhold fight, you've still felt very, very close to the title. Do you think it's enough to earn you a title shot?
I don't know. I mean, I don't expect it. I also, wouldn't be shocked. It depends what's going on in the division. Depends on how good I look in this fight. I mean, Mousasi's on a great win streak, so if I go out there and completely dismantle him, we'll see what the fans want to see. But I have no problem taking a couple more fights. We'll see what, I got to beat whoever it takes to get to the top. I don't care.
There's obviously the rematch against Luke Rockhold that the fans are sort of looking forward to. Or you could get the winner of Bisping and GSP. If you had to choose between the two, would you be more interested, obviously, in the title fight or maybe even fighting Bisping if he lost against GSP? Or is the rematch against Luke Rockhold something that you'd be interested in as well?
I know the biggest thing, what I want more than anything is the title. That's where the money's at, man. That's the bread and butter. So getting the title is the number one thing I have my eyes set on. It doesn't. I got nothing with Rockhold. Whatever he fought a better fight than me. He beat me, and at one point we will get a rematch, and I'll redeem myself. But it's not something that I'm losing sleep over.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting how you mentioned the title is the bread and butter, and that's where the money is, and that's perfectly been demonstrated by what's been going in the division recently with Michael Bisping sort of, I don't want to say commanding, because obviously the UFC is giving these matchups, but, since he's been the champion, a lot of interesting things have been happening. Dan Henderson getting the title shot, and now GSP. What do you think about that whole situation in the division and guys like Yoel Romero and number one contenders sort of been overlooked?
Well, it's definitely holding up the division, which sucks for everybody in the middleweight division. I understand GSP. I mean, he gets the opportunity to fight for the middleweight title against a guy who's probably less dangerous for him than even at welterweight, fighting a guy like Tyron Woodley. So it's a great opportunity for GSP. So I understand what he's doing. For Bisping, it's a great opportunity for him. He gets to make a lot of money fighting GSP, and it's a guy who's coming up from welterweight and hasn't fought in, 3 years. So, and he's not fighting a top contender in the middleweight division. So for those two guys, it's working out great. But for the rest of the division, it's kind of sucks.
I mean, we know you're a competitor who's chasing the same thing, but does a part of you sort of feel sorry for Yoel Romero a little bit when you see him getting overlooked for a title shot, even though he's the number one contender? And it kind of looked like he was going to get that title shot for a long time.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel for him, man. I mean, he deserves it. He beat me fair and square with a beautiful, beautiful knockout. So, I expected him to get it, but Bisping, I don't think wants that fight, and then all of a sudden, just bad timing with GSP coming back and Bisping opening his mouth trying to, want that fight. So, it's just bad timing for him.
It's a fight that regardless the result is going to affect your division. What do you think? Who do you see winning out of Bisping and GSP?
Bisping's a bigger guy, way bigger guy than GSP. GSP's, talking about even going down to 55, so the size disparity is going to be a lot. And GSP's been out for a long time now, so that's the curveballs that we got going. But I think GSP has been a more proven winner over the years, and I think he can find a way to win.
Well, it's going to be an exciting fight, but we know George has always had a good relationship with the guys at Renzo Gracie Academy, and I'm just curious, have you guys ever trained together or sparred? And if so, how did he feel in terms of strength? Was he able to match the middleweights that you're used to facing?
He's definitely a smaller guy, and I haven't gone like live with him or anything like that. We've worked together, but nothing could be told. But he's definitely a smaller guy, but he's capable of doing anything he wants to do.
Just curious, if he was to stick around long term at middleweight, do you see him potentially fighting some of the top contenders? And do you think that he might stick around long enough to say face you? And what is the relationship like between you guys? Is there enough to sort of stop a fight from happening, or would you be open to that fight sometime in the future?
No, I don't think he would. I don't think he's going to stick around at middleweight. First off, and second off, I don't think we would fight. There's too much. The Renzo Gracie affiliation, I think, is too strong. He trains that with Danaher. I like GSP's just a good dude. I don't know. I mean, unless he called me up and was like, "Listen, let's do it," we're going to make a lot of money doing it, then I'll be like, okay. But I have no interest in doing it.
Yeah, certainly. And look, before we move on from the topic, just quickly, we spoke to Luke Rockhold last week. We were talking to a few middleweights, and some of them are just upset at the situation because it does look like GSP is going to win the title and then go on to fight in other divisions and not really defend it. It's not really GSP's fault. I mean, he was offered the fight. How could you not take such a great opportunity? But as a middleweight in the division, knowing that potentially the champion won't be defending the belt and that belt possibly being held up, is that sort of a frustrating feeling for you?
I'm going to let it all play out. I'm not frustrated at all because I have something on my plate here that I got to focus on. That's obviously beating Mousasi, and that's all I'm really focused on. So there's nothing for me to be frustrated about at this point.
And before we let you go, Chris, and get a prediction for the Mousasi fight, I mean, you recently told a story about how you and John Vellante embarrassed some juice heads outside of a club by using your elite NCAA wrestling. I mean, everybody loves these kinds of crazy stories, these before they were in the UFC, things that happen outside of the octagon. Do you recall any other times where you've used wrestling to get out of a sticky situation?
Yeah, I mean, well, for that one, I was a fighter. I think I might have had like 1 or 2 fights MMA already, so I was already a fighter for that incident. But I just wasn't in the UFC, so no one, I wasn't like a big name or anything. But yeah, there was of course. There's been times I had to throw some people on their heads.
What happened? Give us the details. What's one of the times that you had to throw someone on their head?
Well, there was one time where I was outside this bar and I was with another small wrestler. He's like a 125-pounder, and this is when I was younger. I was like, I don't know, 20 something, 20, was it 22 or something, 21, I don't even know. And as we're leaving the club, my friend, like the small guy I was with, he's a 125-pound wrestler. He was pretty drunk, and I noticed he was surrounded by 3 kids, bigger kids. There were these kids that played basketball around the neighborhood. And they were like just making fun of him. And I came over and I was like, bro, what the hell are you guys doing? I kind of like started creating some conversation with them. And they basically were like, what the hell you think you're going to do? Blah, blah, blah. We go back and forth. He pushes me. I said, don't touch me again. He pushed me again. I said, don't do that. I said, that's your last time pushing me. And when he went to go push me again, I just dropped him with a punch. And as I did that, one of his boys came behind me and tried to throw me in a rear naked choke. So he was circling around this, they were going to try to jump me. And when he did that, I took his arm and I arm threw him. And when I arm threw him over my back, I threw him over my back, he tried to keep his head up. And so when he tried to keep his head up, his head literally scraped across the concrete, and his face literally, like, just his skin just fell off his face. And he's screaming on the floor now, and I let go of him. And that kid I dropped, the first punch is starting to get up, so I get on top of him, and I'm holding him. The third kid is getting beat up by my 125-pound wrestler. He got double-legged. And that kid's beating him up. And so the one kid I dropped, I'm on top of him. I'm kind of just holding him there, and he's out of it. So I'm like, all right, let me get off. I get off. There was like a huge crowd around because the people who I beat up, people were happy I beat up. I'll just put it that way. And as I'm walking away, 3 cop cars like pull around the block because it was a big bar scene. It was like this big, it was around the colleges. It was around the college. So there's a lot of kids, and the cops are always around just making sure no one gets in trouble. So as soon as the cops come, my one friend started sprinting in one direction away. And I'm like, I don't want to sprint. I don't want the cops to, like, get out of the car and start chasing me and make it obvious it's me. I'm like, I don't feel like I just kind of defended myself, so I don't feel like I did anything wrong. So I started walking towards the cops. And there was a large crowd of people, so I just wanted to blend in. And then, but of course, the kid who's screaming with his face, all messed up, he's screaming, get the kid in the shirt. And I think I was wearing like a red shirt. He's like, get the kid in the red shirt. And the cops grab me, throw me in the car, and they're like, yes, that kid's father is a cop at that point.
Oh, wow.
Next thing I know, these cops are like making stuff up. They're like trying to say I stomped on this kid's face, and I'm like, whoa. And they just were trying to like call me a liar. I was like, I didn't do anything wrong. I just defended myself, and they were picking on my friend. So I got a little trouble, but nothing too serious. And that's another instance where that happened.
Wow, what an amazing story, Chris. Thanks for sharing it with us. Look, we'll let you go. We know you're busy. Got to get back to training. As we let you go, your prediction for April 8th or 9th here in Australia, UFC 210 in Buffalo, New York. How do you see yourself beating Gegard Mousasi? Give us the prediction.
I think a TKO. TKO round 2.
Well, there you go. TKO round 2. And luckily, there's no concrete in the octagon, so there won't be any face scraping going on this time around. The fight is April 8th in America, 9th in Australia. Obviously, Chris Weidman versus Gegard Mousasi, UFC 210 in Buffalo, New York. Make sure to follow Chris on Twitter and Instagram at Chris Weidman UFC. And check out his Twitch channel. He needs a bit of love, the All-American One. Watch Chris play Counter-Strike and a bunch of other things. Chris, thank you so much for stopping by and chatting with us. We appreciate your time. And good luck on April 8th.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.